Welcome to another episode of Crawfordsville Connection, the City of Crawfordsville's weekly podcast that comes out every Monday morning. I'm your host, Sarah Summer, and I'm joined in the studio every week with Mayor Todd Barton to keep our community up to date on current events, city workings, and to hear from community members on a variety of topics. Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope you enjoyed the show. Welcome back to another episode of Crawfordsville Connection. I'm your host, Sarah Summer, and today I'm joined in the studio by Mayor Todd Barton.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Good.
We have an exciting episode
We
today.
do. Yeah.
Something that you've been probably waiting for a long time.
Very long time.
Before we get started, though,
Yes.
we've got some announcements.
We do. I will have a community forum on Wednesday, June 18th from 5 to 6 p.m. at Pike Place. Stop by if you have a question, concern, suggestion.
You want to
Whatever.
listen?
Yeah. A lot of people come, they just want to listen. And I always get asked the question, what if it's raining or it's really bad? If it is, we'll go around the corner to Fusion 54.
Yep.
But that's not going to happen.
No.
Yeah. Another announcement, remind everybody that Thursday, June 19th is Juneteenth holiday. So city offices will be closed. We will do a double trash pickup on Friday the 20th.
Yes.
And then also on Friday the 20th, guess what's going to happen?
Drum roll.
Drum roll. We have the Ben Hur ribbon cutting and open house, and we're going to talk about that today.
Yes.
So I want everybody to get that on their calendars. I get asked that question all the time. When can I get in, check out the Ben Hur Building? There's your answer.
Yes, there's your answer.
Yep.
We have, talked about this for a long time on the podcast in our general updates.
Longer than the podcast has existed.
Yes.
Almost since before you were born, probably.
A long time. We've been talking about this building, and today we have brought the expert here, and we have Jon Anderson with us. Jon, welcome.
Good morning.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about who you are, what your role is, and how you are involved with the Ben Hur Building?
Sure. So I own AP Development and Anderson Partners. AP Development has developed the building. The mayor and I have been working on this for quite a while. I'm glad he keeps getting reelected. That makes things easier.
That would be a problem for this.
Yes.
I don't know. You never know. Next person might do it better.
Yeah.
Get it done quicker.
I doubt it. So we as a development firm, we seek out significant historic buildings and sites. Sometimes something used to be there and it's been torn down and we try to build something back. I was driving in this morning. I realized how significant this building is because the welcome sign says home of the Ben Hur. And I know you're talking about the novel, but I'm going to take it as the building. So we seek out properties like this throughout Indiana, the Midwest, and try to bring them back to life.
Mm-hmm.
We have a bunch of different informal taglines. One of them is we redevelop postcards.
Mm-hmm.
And if you see how many postcards there are of the Ben Hur, the stories we hear from people online about what the Ben Hur meant to them, the lunch counter, going to the dentist, going to the doctor, all of those things, speak to us and tell us what this building means to the community. And, we look at it and, the dirtier, the dingier, the darker, the longer it's been vacant, the more we want to bring it back to life.
Absolutely.
And so we're really excited that through trials and tribulations and COVID and other things, we are now on the precipice of a grand opening and ready to move people into the building.
Yeah, pretty incredible. And, you're saying dirty, vacant, old, dingy. I think Ben Hur fit all of those for a while, didn't it?
It wasn't terrible. I mean, when we did the old hospital, it was in far worse shape than the Ben Hur Building. But it had its issues for sure. Been sitting a long time.
Yeah. Well, you talked a little bit about, the different things that were in there, but let's dive into some of the history. Do you want to talk about, what was that building originally used for and what was the main purpose of it in our community?
Yeah, it's really a pretty incredible story as buildings go. Lew Wallace wrote Ben Hur. In the early 1890s, a group of local businessmen went to Lew Wallace and asked to form a fraternal organization, much like the Masons or the Knights of Columbus. And he acquiesced. They wanted to call it the Village, I think, or something, or Knights of Ben Hur. He said, no, let's call it the Tribe. And from that, the Ben Hur Society was born. Small in the beginning. I think by the early 1900s, it had 120,000 members.
Wow.
In the Midwest. The office was a house here close by. And then this building was built in 1911 as the home of the Ben Hur.
Mm-hmm.
It also was a life insurance company. So as a member of Ben Hur, you received life insurance, much like if you're familiar with the Oneida colony in New York, they still make silverware. And that later became USA Life and then moved to Indianapolis. This building itself was built in 1911 in a classical design, which you can see floors 2 through 5. In 1940, it was renovated with its kind of muted Art Deco interior, and the black marble was added to the exterior. After that, it continued to be home to the Ben Hur. The Ben Hur Society kind of faded out, but the life insurance company continued to the 90s. As we mentioned, there were a lot of doctors, dentists, attorneys, the usual suspects in the building, and just started to decline. It sounds like the last tenant left in the early 2000s. So completely vacant for 20 years, but I'd say highly underutilized for 40.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say they left earlier than that. I worked obviously at the fire department right across the street. The late 80s, there were a few occupants still there, but by the early 90s, it was pretty much done. Yeah. And there was one attorney office left, and then the insurance company. There was one attorney's office left, and then the insurance company. And then the insurance company stayed. They were the last to leave the building, but they only had like one employee at that time, and it was in like a little corner office. So it's been empty a very long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't imagine being the one only person in that building,
Exactly. Yeah.
What I find interesting too about the insurance company is USA Life did not acquire Ben Hur Life. Ben Hur Life became USA Life.
Yeah.
So if you think of what that company is now, it started right here in Crawfordsville in 1893.
That's pretty cool.
As a beneficial insurance
I just remember growing up. I mean, it was a hub of activity. I went to the dentist there. Was terrified every time I went, I think, but everything was there in that building, and it was so vibrant and so much activity. And then it's just been empty. I was driving through downtown the other night, and I've talked about seeing this kind of before, but the lights were on the upper floors, and it just like catches your attention. You've not seen that for decades here. It's going to be so interesting to see that lit up at night.
Yeah, brings a little bit of life back to
it does.
Downtown.
Yeah.
So, Jon, you gave us a little bit of an overview, why you picked Ben Hur, but what really inspired this project for you? How did you come across the Ben Hur Building, and what was that process like?
Yeah, so I've been involved with the Ben Hur for quite some time. It actually first came to me on a referral as an attorney to represent an out-of-state developer. At that time, we were developing some things, but not the way we are today. That development didn't work out. There was another developer that came in. That didn't work out. And then somewhere along the line, the mayor and I talked and said, why don't we just do it? We had it teed up and ready to go right as COVID hit.
Yeah.
And then had to kind of change our vision for the building a little bit, but kept going. And then the mayor has done a great job of adding jobs to Crawfordsville. There's a need for housing. There's a need for this kind of housing.
Absolutely.
And so that's how the project, came to be what it is today. For us, the market is strong. The building is beautiful. The bones are good. There is so much original historic fabric there. And we have restored all of that,
awesome.
Right down to stripping all of the stain and varnish, 110 years of it off the woodwork in the hallways.
Wow.
Replicating the wood that we couldn't. I think you all know we had somebody break in about a year and a half ago and steal some things. We've replicated all of that. So the door handles are not the original door handles in the building, but they are replicas of those door handles. Some railing. The elevator has been restored in place.
Very cool.
The inside of the cab will be new because 1911 controls are not quite up to code. But a lot of those things. And one of the interesting things about the building is the first floor outside of that original lobby was a bit of a canvas for us to recreate some things. Because for those of you who have been in the building, there was really nothing in that first floor, maybe some unfortunate 80s renovations. And so we've created a brand new lobby. We kept all the glass block. Originally, our thought was we would replace that with storefront. And then I walked into the apartments one day about 6 months ago and said, no, we've got to keep the glass block. The exterior, when the green windows started going in, that's actually the original color of the windows that we saw in postcards, and then started peeling back the layers of paint and got to where these windows were originally green to complement
when the windows
terracotta.
went in, that just... everybody was like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. I mean, it just looks so different once the new windows went in.
Well, and the light, you think about how technology changes over time. Those windows were put in, the prior windows, in maybe the 60s or 70s. And we replaced those windows and probably got 30% more light into
Wow.
the unit.
Yeah.
And, went back to the original arch
Mhm.
opening and all of those things. And so, our process, because of my background, I look at the money first, right? I
Yeah.
fall in love with the building, and then I make sure we can figure out what the capital stack
Mhm.
looks like. Because we all have, great ideas of how to renovate a building, but if we can't pay for it,
Right.
it doesn't get done. And that's where the mayor and the city and others have been really instrumental in what we've accomplished here. The city was a financial participant in the project. We have tax credits, federal historic tax credits, state tax credits from the Indiana Economic Development Corporation, OCRA, the Office of Community and
Mhm.
Rural Affairs. Had some money. First Farmers Bank and Trust is our lender. But none of this happens without that capital
Right.
stack coming together for us to be able to do what we do.
Yeah.
That's an important point. I think people think that there's just one funding source for
Right.
a project this big, and it takes multiple things coming together,
Yeah.
stacked up to make a project like this happen. So, what the end price tag on this project, John?
We're around $13 million.
Yeah. So yeah,
Big
it
investment in
takes
our
multiple
community.
sources
Yeah.
to get to that point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you've talked about all the work that you're putting in, making this, it was offices and whatnot. So what does that look like, transforming those spaces into apartments? How many apartments will there be available? And, what does that look like for people?
Yeah. So I think people will be surprised when they walk in the building. If they had an office in, say, 212 on the second floor, that
Mhm.
door is still there, that transom is still there, that number is still there. When we design a renovation of these buildings, we try to keep as many walls as we can on
Mhm.
the inside rather than come in, demo everything, and build new.
Mhm.
And so you'll see that in the layout of the units. You'll walk in to a kitchen that is open to a living room that used to be one office. And then there'll be a door that goes into a bedroom bath that used to be another office.
Mhm.
As I said, as much of the original woodwork as we could, we kept. When we created a new opening, we replicated the woodwork.
Yeah.
And so this building laid out, there were some challenges with, some interior rooms that we had to work around. But as folks walk into this building, the corridors upstairs are exactly as they were in 1911.
Mhm.
Once you get beyond the door, it's all modern. It's quartz countertops. It's stainless steel appliances. We took back all the layers of carpet and vinyl and everything else and refinished the original hardwood floors
Wow.
everywhere but the southeast corner where we had some water damage over the years.
Mhm.
And so you'll see a nice mix of modern amenities with a touch of nostalgia for
Yeah.
people. People can go stand in the corner where the dentist used to terrify them.
Right. Do you remember what office that was?
It was the third or fourth floor. Yeah, I can tell you pretty closely.
I'll have to go.
Well, one thing that stood out to me, it overlooked the fire department, so I was
Yeah.
mesmerized by,
Yes.
as a young child.
As a young-
There comes the fire trucks. Yeah,
Full circle, right?
that's right.
Yes.
Yeah, it all came together, I guess.
So if people are wanting to move into these spaces, what is the leasing process? How do they go about, inquiring?
Yeah, so there's a website is probably the easiest way. It's liveatbenhur.com. Easy to remember. We have a management agent who's on site and is giving people tours of buildings and potential units already. The grand opening is June 20th, and
Yeah.
so we'll be moving people in immediately after that.
Pretty incredible.
Yeah.
That's
And there'll be a lot of people there for the ribbon cutting.
Yeah, we're exciting about the ribbon cutting. We've had other ribbon cuttings, but they were one happened during COVID, and so
Mhm.
that wasn't much of a ribbon cutting.
Right.
This one is exciting because of what this means to the community, and we expect to have a lot of people through. We're having it catered by a local company, Juniper Spoon, is
Wonderful.
going to be there, and so we're just excited for people to see the new reimagined Ben Hur.
Yeah. I know we shared out the ribbon cutting post on our social media page, and that got, 50 plus shares alone, and it's been shared in, multiple different places. I think this building has impacted so many people's lives. Either, they went there as a child and haven't been in since. Maybe they worked in there themselves, or it's somebody that they've never seen inside the building and they're curious. And so I think there's a lot of people who are truly interested in what is this building all about?
Yeah, everybody has a story about this building. They recall the elevator and
Yeah.
the attendant in the elevator or the lunch counter. just or going there for the doctor. And then as time passes, so many people just have never been in the building at all.
Mhm.
That's hard for me to wrap my head around, I guess,
Right.
because I've been in the building so much over the years, But yeah, a lot of people have never been in there.
Yeah.
I've met people that have just been in the revolving door.
Yeah, yeah, well,
Yep.
Yeah,
probably a few people who've been in there who weren't supposed to be in there over the years too. But
no doubt.
Well, Mayor, we've talked about this a number of times, with the general update, and we said, wow, I can't imagine a day that we're not giving an update on Ben Hur.
that day's coming.
It is.
Really soon.
July might be the last update,
yeah.
But for you, what do you think this project means to Crawfordsville?
Well, it means a lot of different things. And, you have to think back. It's about our history, right? That's important. It's also about our downtown.
Mm-hmm.
The health of our downtown. Our downtown, we've done incredible things. We collectively as a community have done incredible things with our downtown. And this is kind of the crown on top of that.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time I ran for mayor, there was a statement made in the debate and said the Ben Hur Building hangs over our downtown like a dark cloud.
Wow.
So we're going to reverse that right now,
absolutely.
and this becomes the crown on top of an amazing downtown where everybody's really come together. And think about the people living downtown. This adds more people 24/7 to our downtown,
Right.
which benefits every business in the downtown area as well.
Mm-hmm.
So there's all those different pieces coming together, and then there's just the reality of housing today. We talk about it all the time as jobs are created, investments created. We're struggling to try to fill the housing needs of our community. So this is another piece of that puzzle and pulling that all together. So it means a lot of different things, but I said all along, like, we had to figure out the old hospital. We did that. The Ben Hur Building was next, and then Masonic. Those were kind of the three big pieces right there across our downtown, and all those are coming together now.
Incredible. See it all put together.
Yeah.
And like you said, driving into town, it's going to change the landscape when you come down and there's lights on. It kind of goes back to, how with Fusion, you had said people are like, hey, the lights got left on in the building. You're like, no, people are using that space.
We had those calls the first, 6 months that we were using that building, that somebody left the lights on. No, there's actually people there at night doing things. So
a lot of life to downtown. And I think this lends itself to opportunity for other people to say, hey, we see a future project here. We could do something similar. And we know there are.
Well, we're already seeing that. We're hearing from other developers saying, "Hey, there's some synergy here. Maybe we'll do 10 apartments or 5 apartments or something a block away." That's happening. Nothing in ink, but that's kind of coming together as we speak. So it does create that kind of synergy.
Yeah, and we know there are open, empty storefronts downtown that. With this many people coming downtown, there's opportunity there for different retaurants, different stores, and other.
There are many. There's not much room left.
Yeah.
Everything's pretty full. So there's always opportunity, and downtown will evolve. Retail evolves and changes over time, and that'll continue downtown.
Yeah.
To that point, we had considered a retail space in Ben Hur, and I stood in the new lobby one day and thought, I don't want to put a wall there.
Right.
And so now we have a pretty good sized space there on Water Street with the new entrance that we hope the community will use, that we will, be available for receptions or meetings or things like that, so that people get in the Ben Hur. I don't want to finish the Ben Hur and then everybody think, oh, well, people live there and I can't go in there anymore.
Right.
We have spaces in the front, the original conference room in the front. We peeled off the wallpaper, and it's the burl walnut from 1940 that we have refinished. We've taken the original table from the boardroom upstairs and put it in that
that's
room
incredible
for people to use. And so we don't want this to just be the end of Main Street downtown.
Right.
We want this to be an integrated part that people are coming in and out of and using on a daily basis.
We'll have to go there and have some meetings.
I know. We'll have our department head meeting or something.
Do something over there.
Very cool.
Absolutely.
Well, I think it would be remiss of us if we did not, address the one concern that we know we've seen multiple times. Where are these people going to park? What does parking look like? Are they building a parking lot? And I think we've seen that a lot. And so, do you want to touch on what parking looks like for the people living in this space?
Yeah, I always, in the communities we work in, I always tell people you want a parking problem.
Yeah.
You want to have events that cause people to park 3 blocks away and walk. City of Crawfordsville, as the mayor mentioned, has plenty of parking downtown. The mayor was gracious enough and city council to change the lot on the other side of is it AT&T, Mayor?
Mhm.
Yeah.
AT&T to a 48-hour lot. So that's where we are going to tell our tenants to park.
Yeah.
But people work on different schedules, right? The downtown parking is, I think, 9 to 4.
Yeah.
The last thing we want to do is tear down a building to build a parking lot.
Right.
And parking finds its balance. People figure it out. I have other buildings in similar towns that have 0 parking.
Mm-hmm.
And people figure it out and it works. And the downtown is better for it because of that cadence of people coming downtown at different times of the day and energizing the downtown. So we've thought through parking. There's plenty of parking. There may be some growing pains for a couple of weeks, but after that, everybody will be fine.
I tell everybody, and we talked about this before we started taping, but people from out of town remark, "My gosh, you have so much parking."
Yeah.
And people in cars are like, "We have no parking."
There's no parking.
It's a matter of, perspective, I guess. But we will in the coming years. We're going to be talking about parking, and I think we have plenty. It's a little confusing, and wayfinding is going to help with that somewhat. And it's kind of funny now in hindsight when we acquired the property for Pike Place, there was a lot of outcry. We should just turn that into a parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
Now I think, oh, what if we'd have done that? What a travesty that would have been, right? So, parking can be, the challenge in the downtown is just the turnover, right? You don't want somebody parking in front of a business all day and then customers can't get there. So once we kind of figure that out, we're going to be making some changes coming up, but I'm confident that parking's fine for this project.
Yeah.
And in fact, we're going to be changing our zoning code in probably yet this year. And one of those changes will be to lessen the parking requirements for downtown residential. We're one of the last communities to do that, but we know that parking requirements in that situation are very different.
Right.
You don't need 2 parking spots per apartment in a downtown. It just is unrealistic.
Yeah.
And that's not what people want today.
Right. Well, I think for me, I've never been in the Ben Hur Building, so I'm definitely looking forward to this grand opening, the ribbon cutting, and
he knows somebody can give you a tour.
Oh,
I bet he does.
Right. You know someone. So I'm definitely looking forward to this, and I think Friday is going to be a really special day in our community where people can see life, happening in this building that has sat vacant for so long, and it's going to be the start of something wonderful.
It is exciting, very exciting.
Well, Jon, thank you so much for being here. Is there anything else that you would like to add?
No, just if anybody has any questions, they can feel free to reach out. There's all kinds of ways to find us.
Absolutely.
Again, it's live@benhur.com. If people are looking for information on the building, our website is AP Development LLC if they want some information on us and what we do. And we are very excited to see a lot of people on Friday the 20th.
Yes. Mayor, is there anything else
I don't think so. We'll see you by Friday.
Yes. Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you all so much for listening. As always, if you have topics or things you'd like to hear about, please reach out and let us know. And don't forget to check out Yodel, our Community Connections calendar and newsfeed with all things happening at Crawfordsville in one easy and convenient location. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week. Make sure you hit the subscribe button on this podcast so you never miss an episode. And if you aren't already, follow us on Facebook at City of Crawfordsville Official, on Twitter at City of Seaville, and on Instagram at City of Crawfordsville. We hope you have a wonderful day and can't wait for you to join us next week.